Howdy do my dudes, we got another fixing my build for you guys. This one here is from Psynaste and it's his Deadeye that uses Wind Serpent's Fury. It is using a variation of mine in Fubgun's build, but unfortunately it is just not quite performing, and we are going to fix that for you today. So first of all, we got a video to show off exactly how it is performing. We got the stats here. He is not lightning res capped, which is an issue. He's got decent evasion, pretty good energy shield at about 3k, could definitely be higher for being a split base, and relatively decent stats overall. Pablo kitty. And so we're going to show that off right now. So first things first, when we get to the maps, we'll see that he does not have the best way to maintain frenzy charges in maps despite using controller, which is surprising, but I've taken a quick peek at his skills. We can get that fixed right away. The damage is okay for solo maps, but he was saying in group content he has a hard time taking out mobs and the like as you're seeing, he ran out of frenzy charges there and he's only getting 2 right now, but we will get that fixed up for him right quick. Yeah, like he should be having pretty much cap frenzy charges all the time, no issue, and more than enough damage to deal with whatever he needs. And when we fast forward here to bosses, we'll see that how he's generating his shocks, because he's not using Stormlance, he's using Lightning Spear to proc his shock, but he's only getting 22% shock effect, which is a lot of lost damage, unfortunately. And when he comes to using, or doing pinnacle fights, because he's not using Hariz, he's using the split, he needs to be a little bit more active to avoid things. But like he got his shock off with Lightning Spear, but unfortunately since it's just the one, it drops off pretty fast, and he's having a bit of a hard time, as you can see, generating frenzy charges. I'm not too sure if he's using the manual cast sniper's mark that he shows in his in the mobilytics, but either way, like I said, this is all going to be really easy to fix here. I'm not 100% if that is cast on crit or cast on shock, but according to the mobilytics, it is cast on shock, which, as you can tell, because he's using Spear Stab, he's getting very few shocks off. When he uses his Wind Serpent, since it's doing so much more damage, is giving the shocks that he needs and maintaining it, but you desperately want the shock before Wind Serpent. And again, because he's having kind of a hard time getting those consistent frenzy charges without using Wind Serpent first, he's not getting the damage for it, and yeah, definitely struggling with the pinnacle content. And we'll just stop right there with the gear that you have, that as soon as you have a Sacred Flame, even a 40% Sacred Flame, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to one-shot that boss. So first things first, we'll go over your skills, and we're going to fix this up for you. So Lightning Spear right here, a great skill. You got it level 20. You don't have it qualityed though. You need it qualityed. It gives it extra projectiles, which is incredible for clear. It is where most of the damage comes in. Pablo Kitty, you are adorable. I'll give you some pets. But you do not need perpetual charge. When we get this fixed up for you, you will not need perpetual charge. And first things first, you got the 23% critical hit chance on Tangle Tongue. You should have absolutely zero issue getting crit capped. You basically said goodbye to some damage in order to get higher critical hit chance. So you should be going and cashing all in on that. And so with that crit chance, you 100% should be using cast on crit. And with the meta skills that you have, and having Sacred Flame and Beacon of Aziz, you will have so much spirit. You should be at like 240 spear, 250, and you're still using cast on shock. I did the math here, and you're using less than 200. Switch cast on shock out for cast on crit. Drop sniper's mark manual cast entirely. You won't need it. And as I showed in my last video, showcasing controllers being incredibly powerful, and you're using a controller, you don't actually need combat frenzy. So put perfusion on with your sniper's mark on your cast on shock, and you're not going to need it at all. Sorry, not cast on shock, but your new cast on crit. That is your first step. Drop perpetual charge, drop combat frenzy, put perfusion on your sniper's mark, that is on cast on shock, drop your manual sniper's mark, and now you have an entire extra slot to use, and you have a whole lot more spirit. You're with this current setup, you wouldn't be able to use Trinity, but if you were willing to drop either Ghost Dance or Herald of Thunder, then you would have enough to be able to use Trinity, which again would be another massive damage buff. Going back here to Lightning Spear, though, you got Long Shot, great skill. Deliberation, it slows you down a bit, which I'm surprised you're using, because your entire tree is based around getting as much movement speed as possible. You've hit every movement speed node that there is that I can see, and you're still using Deliberation. I feel like that's counterintuitive to what you have, but Volt and Fork are great. So Long Shot, Volt, and Fork, they're fantastic. Drop Perpetual Charge. I think best case for you right now would be to put either Embitter, I believe it is, Embitter that gives all damage extra to be converted to cold, and put that on your Lightning Spear, so that way it also freezes for you, which would be incredibly useful, but you won't need it with Combat Friends anymore, it'd just be a defensive layer. You could also use, actually what you definitely 100% should be doing is taking off Innervate from Herald of Thunder and putting it on Lightning Spear. So that would be replacing with Perpetual Charge. And then if you were willing to take off Long Shot and Deliberation both, which I would actually suggest for this better setup, but you could... Actually, no. You could put Embitter onto Herald of Thunder and it'd do the same thing. Then you could put Ice Bite onto Herald of Thunder and it'd give you the charges that way. So yeah, you could keep those. Just put Innervate onto Lightning Spear. That will give you massively, massively more damage. And then putting Embitter onto Herald of Thunder will give it all the damage you need to freeze, as well as Ice Bite. You could get Electrocutes and Freezes off if you like. But the other big thing is you do not need Ambush whatsoever. With this Tangle Tongue, you should definitely be crit capped. So there's no reason to have 100% more crit chance. What are you trying to do, dude? 200% crit chance? You can only crit once. Reach is also pretty nice. Not too certain if it's actually needed, but you know, all the magnified effects and the like, they're fine. I would prefer, if you're going to get Neural Overload and Electrocute, just go ahead, sure, but you could also go down here and path down towards the Electrocution node to get another 20% damage multiplier, but that is entirely up to you. I feel like Glaciation and anything towards giving you more damage on Frozen or chance to freeze, all that jazz, would help you out greatly. Now your Wind Serpent, it was not one-shotting the boss. We definitely noticed that you were getting off your Infernal Cry, so that was not the issue. You missed the wall, which was a big issue. You lose a massive amount of damage because when you hit a wall, it does the shock wave, which is about half of what it can do. So definitely make sure you get that in there correct. It will help out immensely. But for your skills, you don't need Blindside because you won't need the more critical hit chance unless you're under 100%, but you definitely should be at 100%. Unless somehow you aren't, then yes, keep Blindside in, but I think you should be. Ambrosia, yes, definitely, and you even have a great 70% increased charges. Mana Blast to take good use out of it, that's fantastic. Overextend is great. Primal Armament is okay, but there are other better options. I'm just going to quickly check my guy and see what it's like. Okay, so for the other better options, you were not getting off the Ignite, surprisingly, but you should be. You 100% should be getting Ignites and Chills off so that you could use Excoriate, which is massively more damage. You have Overextend, I believe. If not, get it on there. Let me quickly check this again. Yeah, you have Overextend, and you are not using the Stormlance tech, so that you will not be able to take advantage of Pursuit. If you did have Stormlance in there, I would have suggested it because this is another incredible skill that I think would help you out greatly. Now, going back towards Herald of Thunder, I think we already talked about that, where I believe that you would be better off getting freezes off with this, so you could freeze and electrocute to be kind of a defensive layer to help you out in more difficult content. You definitely need to get Ice Bite in there with Embitter and Glaciation to take complete advantage of Sacred Flame. And then when you're going off against well, if you do end up putting in Trinity, it will also help you stack up your Trinity very well, because if this is converted to cold damage and you're doing lightning and fire with something else, then it will stack up Trinity for you very, very quickly, and you wouldn't even need something like Frost Walls to add damage to it. Now, fast forward on Ghost Dance, obviously best in slot, definitely do that. Wind Dancer with Maim, Unbreakable, and Arm's Length. You should really have something like Magnified Effect in here if you're not going to have it on something like Herald of Thunder or anything else, because then it increases the distance of the AoE. You won't need an Inevitable Critical, obviously, because of how nice it is. And then some other really nice ones, like I was showing before. Energy Barrier is actually incredible, because if your Energy Shield pops, well, it just starts regenning right away. And then, yeah, really, Energy Barrier and Magnified Effect are the two that I think you should really, really be looking at. You don't need an Inevitable Critical, because you again should be crit capped. Now, like I said, drop Combat Frenzy because you shouldn't need it. Spear Stab, I feel like this should be again replaced, because if you're dropping Sniper Smart Combat Frenzy, replacing Cast on Shock with Cast on Crit, you'll have the room to get Lightning Spear, or Storm Spear, sorry, onto your bar, which will massively help your boxing, because the reason for that, as you saw with your Spear Stabs, you weren't getting the shocks off that you need to, and you weren't even getting ignites off consistently. If you get that, you will get all the extra ailments on that you do need. You'll be able to toss on blind as well, and it'll be perfect for you. Then it'll allow you to use the once you use a ranged attack, it boosts your melee attack to increase the damage of your Wind Serpent's Fury as well. Spear Stab just isn't good. I know Fubgun used it, but Fubgun was wrong there. He just didn't do enough testing. He won the video out fast. I'm sure if he refined it more, he would remove Spear Stab, because it just doesn't do enough. Unless you had actually ridiculously good gear, even better than what you have, which you have some pretty solid gear, but don't rely on this. Drop your manual cast Sniper's Mark, get cast on crit, and it will fix that issue. Now with your Infernal Cry, you got all the right cries essentially, because with Enraged War Cry improves your damage greatly. Raging Cry with Second Wind means that without something like Orb of Storm to stack up rage for you pre-combat, you cast it twice and you'll get 22 rage, and then obviously premeditation is another more damage multiplier. However, you weren't having enough damage yet, so this might actually be a damage decrease for you. And with the other slot, you may want to put like an Orb of Storms in, but I know that's extra buttons that may not be the most fun to do, so I'm not suggesting that for you right now. Definitely drop the manuals though, that will get you there. And then with your current setup for cast on shock, you don't even need inspiration. However, if you 6-link this, if you do go the route of getting Trinity in there, you can use it to put in a spell that hits at the same rate as your normal attacks to stack Trinity to give you more damage. And obviously Lightning Spear, or sorry, Storm Spear is so incredibly good at charging Trinity that I think it's almost essential, even just for a utility skill. The main thing that I was definitely noticing though is your shock effect only being 22%. You need to bring that up. That is probably going to be through certain support skills. Right here, so like overcharge, 50% magnitude of shocks, that's a 10% damage multiplier for your Wind Serpent's Fury, which is nuts. And then Commiserate on top of it makes it so it does not reflect the shock back onto you, so it gets rid of the entire downside by itself. Now back onto your gear now. So that is your skills. I feel like they definitely need a lot of work. Your Infernal Cry is in a good spot, but the rest of it all needed some stuff changed around, except for your Ghost Dancer, really. We obviously went on to Tangle Tongue. If you're going to be sticking this route, you need to get more flat damage onto the rest of your gear, because having a non-corrupted crit damage, or an extra socket for flat damage, or a corrupted lightning damage onto it, or any elemental damage corrupted onto it higher than what the gems can roll for an extra socket, you are actually just losing damage here. And yeah, you need to make up for it, because like these gloves are not it. They have a decent fire roll on it, but you need at least 2 damage mods on it flat, and it would be best if you could also have crit damage on it. So for example here, take a look at my damage numbers. I know these are ridiculous gloves. I bought them with 2 damage mods and crit damage, and holy crap, they were great. I guess it's not really showing proper numbers because I'm also dropping Sacred Flame because I lose the intelligence for it. But just know that without these gloves, my damage numbers fall off a cliff. It's unfortunate that it's also counting the 57% extra damage from this, so it's false numbers. But I guess one thing I could show you. Oh, I got a pair of no, those are decks. Where's my other pair of gloves? Maybe they're in here. I don't know where they went. But as I'm saying right now, you really need more flat damages on here. Lightning is the most damage. Cold is the most utility, because I noticed you don't have any added cold damage, which is why you're not getting any chills, which is why you can't use Commiserate as a support gem. It only gives you 20% with the ignites and shocks when you do get them off. But if you get any bit of cold, it would be incredibly helpful. That's another reason why I like Hari's Ire so much, on top of being incredibly good for defensive options with evasion. But you went the split base so you could get more energy shield, and I'm not faulting that at all. But as it stands, I mean, it's a decent energy shield base. As it stands, your rings here, they're definitely okay. They're not amazing. They could get better, because the damage rolls could be higher for sure. These are all fairly low damage rolls except for that fire. They could definitely be improved. Your gloves can be improved for damage. It's a fantastic amulet. You have Overwhelming Strike on there. If you need the crit chance, though, which I don't think you do, you may even be better off going Tainted Strike to get the 6% damage multiplier for your shock magnitude. But that one there, I'm not 100%, which would be better. With that said, though, your current setup, I'm surprised you even need the 20% increased crit chance. But again, if you were going to get any anoint here, you wouldn't even get Tainted Strike. You'd want Harmonic Generator on top of it instead, because that is another 10% shock magnitude, which is another 2% more multiplier of damage. So Harmonic Generator is actually better than Tainted Strike if you're going to be anointing it. For your helmet, this one is pretty decent. You obviously don't need crit chance. You just want to pump up energy shield as much as possible. You could get, I think mine is like 520 energy shield. So you could get more for sure, which would give you more benefit out of Subterfuge Mask. But as it stands, it's pretty solid. It's got good resistances, and obviously you like rarity. You're putting rarity in a few places, and you're running Headhunter. One thing that may help you out, though, it's going to be difficult with the attributes on here and you not having many attributes on the rest of your gear. But you could go Ingenuity, which would help pump the damage on your rings a little bit more. But I don't think you're going to want to go that route. I think you're going to want to keep the belt you have so it doesn't screw up the rest of your build. Your boots are definitely good. It's got pretty much everything you need. No problems there. But yeah, the first thing you need to upgrade for sure 100% is your gloves. Get more damage on it. You went defensive on it, but your gloves are not your defensive options. I know you're going to lose a bit here. I'm going to be suggesting a few defensive dropping options, but I feel like they're essential. Now with your jewels, this here is a 2-mod jewel. Accuracy doesn't really do anything for you. Flash charges doesn't do anything for you. You just get some attack speed and damage against uniques. This one here is some energy shield and the 2% shock magnitude you're getting, which is nice, but then the 10% man regen is like not even a half a mod, and duration damaging ailments does not matter. This one here, again, evasion and critical damage bonus. Those are 2 good mods, but where's the rest? And then even your time lost, it's decent with giving you the 6% increased crit chance, and the 20% increased effect of small passives is very nice because it actually brings those 6% up to 7%. And then I know it's showing wrong on the tree here. You're saying it's actually over here. So it's giving you increased benefit of heartbreaking, heart stopping, and struck through, which are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I feel like you could be getting a massively better time lost emerald, and if you're in a good enough place to get something like a sacred flame, even only a 40% one, you are in a place that you can get a better time lost emerald. Something with crit chance is obviously nice, but you shouldn't even need it with this scepter. You need, or with this spear, you need to be banking more into damage. So like even the penetrates lightning resistance is doing nothing for you because you are using Beacon of Aziz, and the increased lightning damage is doing very little for you because you don't actually have that much lightning damage on your gear. And so yeah, you're scaling the physical on your lightning spear, but you're not getting much at all onto your wind serpents, which is the thing that actually matters. This here needs to be replaced. You've got two good mods with 20% effect to small passives on the crit chance, but crit damage will do more for you. Actually, before I get onto that, your Atlas tree is actually pretty solid. You could fix it up a little bit because like you don't need the magic chests, and you're pathing up and around all over the place here, and you could very easily, since you're coming this way, drop these two nodes and then get yourself some quantity of items and rarity and the like, and just a bunch of little improvements here and there, but overall this is pretty decent, nothing to scoff at. And now on to your passive tree. So again, you have the 23% bonus crit chance on your Tangle Tongue, but you didn't come up to Throat Seeker to take advantage of all that. This here is 5 points you need to get up there. I feel like it is the number one thing you need to do first and foremost. And the way you're going to go about getting there is dropping some of these evasion energy shield points because, well, you need the damage to stay alive. I could suggest coming down here, but it looks like you are really in love with the movement speed, and I saw in your videos that you have really good movement speed. But you took all these movement speed nodes all over the place. So I feel like that is your priority or something to keep. So I would suggest dropping this one node, and then any of these nodes that you need to drop in order to come up and get to Throat Seeker. That is your number one. It's going to give you an incredible amount of damage. And then after that, you could come up for Moment of Truth and then completely drop this emerald. Completely drop it and replace it with something very similar but with crit damage or damage with spears or flat attack damage. Anything like that would be massively more help for you. I feel like that is definitely where you need to go, and I'm not even remotely questioning it. Unfortunately, I can't tweak this around too much because it is on max roll instead of path of building, but this here is definitely my suggestions that will get you far. The big thing is you have a bunch of support gems that need to be changed. Your gloves need to be improved. This ring is decent for sure, and this one is triple damage, so it's going to be hard to replace, especially with attributes and great resistances, and it is basically the source of all your lightning res. The other thing is, because you're not lightning res capped, I would actually recommend dropping the chaos res soul cores on here and putting on lightning res jewels, because that's more important than chaos res. You should be swapping that out. And if it's a possible option, just because I'm seeing how much you're needing to run around and how low your energy shield is right now, I think it would be worthwhile for you to think about getting a Harizire for the extra damage and for the dodging everything. I do think it would be overall better for you, but that is not a need. I think that one's just a small suggestion. But yeah, the other big thing is drop cast on shock for cast on crit for sure. And if you're still needing damage, you're going to need to think about dropping either Ghost Dance or Herald of Thunder to put in Trinity. but that one's going to be difficult if you don't have any sources of cold damage. Or sorry, not cold damage. If you're not able to consistently build up charges on both, but you should be able to if you have Stormlance with a Sacred Flame, and then you could even put in another Frost Wall onto Cast on Shock. You wouldn't need anything to support it. It would just, as they pop, they also give you cold damage, and it's surprisingly consistent. But yeah, that is everything. I really hope this helps you out, Psynaste. There is a lot to work on here, but I think you can do it. Another final tip is, if you are way over crit chance, you could try to find like a 19 point something crit chance with another corrupted lightning damage onto it, or fire, cold, whatever you need, or just corrupted crit damage, or 2 sockets. Any of those will do a lot more damage for you. But as it stands, you having the huge base crit chance on this removes a lot of pressure on your tree for getting crit chance elsewhere, which does allow you to get things like all these extra defensives and movement speed nodes. But as it stands, you've leaned a little bit too far into it with getting too little. You need to come up, get your Throat Seeker, get your damage, pump it any way you can. And yeah, I hope that helps a lot. If anybody wants to submit their builds, all you have to do is make a path of building similar to this, as Psynaste was kind enough to do, and supplied some video footage. Try to do that as well. Send it to me on the Discord, and I will get to it as soon as I can. And I think that's everything. Thanks a lot, my dudes, for coming by. If you liked the video, sub and like if you did, and if you didn't, don't. Other than that, yeah, thanks. See you, my dudes.